A little while ago, we did a video about Nancy Pelosi and some people's allegations that she was involved in insider trading. Since then, Glenn Greenwald, friend of the show, has written an article investigating further these allegations. And whatever you think about this issue, it seems that Nancy and Paul Pelosi are making millions in stock trading. If it is legal, how can it be legal? And if the law allows this, what kind of bloody laws have we got anyway? And who makes them? And who do they benefit? Are you benefiting? House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the sixth richest member of Congress, has risen through party ranks and obtained more and more political power. Her personal wealth has risen right along with it. Pelosi has seen her wealth increase to nearly 115 million from 41 million in 2004. So she's getting richer from her job. Now, I don't know what they pay them to be senators and congress folk and all of that, but it seems that she's making 80 million quid. So when you're thinking about your politics and the way that your country is governed, don't you think sometimes things like this, here's a wacky one, don't have rich people in Congress and in the Senate. Make it the law that if this is your job, make sure that you don't go all crazy and blinded by money, which don't make you a bad person, because it could happen to anyone. It would probably happen to me. You'd probably get seduced by the opportunities and the possibilities. None of us is perfect. We're all a combination of good and bad. So to make sure that you don't yield to your stinking greed, Nancy, we're going to put a threshold. You can only earn this if you're in Congress. Oh, I don't want to be in Congress anymore. Then you probably aren't the right sort of person to do the job then. Ever since ascending to the top spot in the House, Pelosi and her husband Paul keep getting richer and richer. Much of their added wealth is due to extremely lucrative and lucky, I like Glenn Greenwald, decisions about when to buy and sell stocks and options in the very industries and companies over which Pelosi as House Speaker exercise enormous and direct influence. Now, I'm not suggesting, and I'm assuming Glenn Greenwald isn't suggesting that Nancy Pelosi is doing anything illegal, but the fact that it isn't illegal is the problem. Surely the laws that govern a nation ought protect its civilians, or benefit its civilians, and oughtn't facilitate mighty land grabs from people in positions of privilege and power. Otherwise, that's precisely the sort of people that will be magnetised there. If you want to know if money is a factor, take money out. Then see. You'll see the results. You'll see which people sort of drop away like flies. Hey, it's not possible. We're going to monitor your bank balance. You see how you monitor everyone else's bank balances for all your illegal spying programs? Yeah, we're going to do that to you. So if you go up by 1 penny piece, you'll be out of a job, mate. Well, I don't want to do that job. Good. Right. Next. The sector in which the Pelosi's most frequently buy and sell stocks is by far the Silicon Valley tech industry. You know, when you see them like things, those congressional hearings where Mark Zuckerberg sat there all pale as day, all thin, with his kabuki mask of a face on, going like, well, you know, we tried our best. Well, there's no evidence of any wrongdoing. Do you think it's possible that the investigations are somewhat nullified and impotent? Because there's people, like if I was making 100 million quid out of something and then I had to investigate whether or not that thing was good, I might look at the 100 million quid and go, 100 million quid? Good. Not 100 million quid? Not good. It's not good to have people that benefit from big tech governing big tech. That's what the lunatics have taken over the asylum, the poacher turned gamekeeper. I don't know what idiom you want to employ to describe this madness, but it ain't right. Close to 75% of the Pelosi stock trading over the last 2 years has been in big tech, more than $33 million worth of trading. That has happened as major legislation is pending before the House, controlled by the committees Pelosi oversees, which could radically reshape the industry and laws that govern the very companies in which she and her husband most aggressively trade. You would need to be Christ, or St. Francis of Assisi, or Muhammad, peace be upon him, or the Buddha, to be able to go, all right, let's come up with this legislation for these companies. Now, how much did I make from that company last week? Couple of million. Well, let's nip that in the bud. To underscore the towering conflict of interest at the heart of Speaker Pelosi's self-enrichment. Do you remember this dude, Greenwald, with the Snowden thing? He was a hero. You don't hear so much from him anymore. Maybe this is why. Consider the company in which the Pelosi's traded most often, Apple. Buying and selling in that one company accounted for 17.7% of the Pelosi's overall trading volume. And yet during this same period, Pelosi held at least one private conversation with Apple CEO Tim Cook about the state of Apple and possible effects on the company from various pending reforms to Silicon Valley. And I'm sure if Nancy Pelosi, who's doing this legislation, and Tim Cook, who's running Apple, have a chat like, how's it going? Yeah, I'm all right. How about you? Yeah, I'm all right. Weather's all right, isn't it? Yeah. What about that legislation you're passing that could possibly impede the profits of Apple? We can't talk about that, Tim. No, Tim! What kind of woman do you think I am? On the 22nd of June, New York Times reported on a forceful and wide-ranging pushback by the tech industry since the antitrust reform proposals were announced this month. In particular, executives, lobbyists and more than a dozen think tanks and advocacy groups paid by tech companies have swarmed Capitol offices, called and emailed lawyers and their staff members and written letters arguing there will be dire consequences for the industry and the country if the ideas become law. If you're a person that's really interested in politics, right, I'm not that interested in it, but if you are really, really interested in it, like say you really love the Democrats and think it's a really good thing that Democrats got in, or if you really love the Republicans and think it's a bad thing and that the election was stolen, you know, however you stand, wouldn't you like one party to go, if we get in, what we're going to do, right, is we're going to ban lobbying. Big companies won't be able to come into Congress and say, could you create favourable legislation that never impedes and in fact enhances our ability to make money? We're not going to allow that. That's gone. Day one, you elect us. Day two, that's gone forever. One of the most important steps taken against these bills was a personal call placed by Apple CEO directly to Pelosi. Pelosi was having personal private conversations with the CEO of a company in which she and her husband were heavily invested and off of which they were making millions of dollars in personal wealth. And Pelosi, according to the report, asked Cook what changes were needed to avoid harming Apple and other Silicon Valley giants. Indeed, all 5 of the Pelosi's most traded stocks over the last 2 years just so happen to be the 5 Silicon Valley giants that will be the most affected by pending legislation. I'd like to see that discussed, wouldn't you? I'd like to see how they go, oh God, oh yeah, no, that does look bad, doesn't it? The 5 that we got stocks in are the 5 that would be most affected by legislation were legislation to be passed. But well, let me explain to you how that's not a conflict of interest. That just can't happen, can it? So it is a conflict of interest, it would seem. Beyond that, Google, one of the companies in which the Pelosi's stock trades, is one of the top 5 donors to the House Speaker. The wealthy couple buys and sells in Google stocks, making millions. She works on bills that directly affect the future trajectory of Google, and they lavish her campaign coffers with cash, a key source of her entrenched power. Paul Pelosi in March exercised $1.95 million worth of Microsoft call options less than 2 weeks before the tech stalwart secured a $22 billion contract to supply US Army combat troops with augmented reality headsets. I got a hunch about Microsoft. I got a feeling things is going to get good for Microsoft right about when's that happen, Nancy? 2 weeks. About 2 weeks! In January, he purchased up to 1 million of Tesla calls before the Biden administration delivered its plans to shift to... Look, even me, look, you can go back and watch my videos before the election of Joe Biden and you can see what I was saying. You can go back and watch my videos from 6 years ago and see what I was saying about politics then. But even I am disappointed. I'm disappointed by this. I'm disappointed. I don't want to be right. I want to be wrong. I want to be shown that these people have integrity, that they have values, that they really care, that there genuinely is an alternative, that there are politicians like the movies tell us about, that have ideals, that believe in us, that get into politics because they want to help ordinary people. But then you read this stuff, you look at this stuff and you think, that ain't the deal. That ain't the deal. So who's it down to? You and me to do something different, because no one else is gonna do it for us. Those institutions, those systems, I don't even blame them as individuals. It's almost like, I don't know, like they're in prison or something and they just behave how you would behave if you were in prison. So the institutions and the systems themselves are so entrenchingly hypnotic and corrupt that any individual that strolls into there will be immediately hypnotised. Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or whoever, I'm sure as little children they were filled with innocence and wonder and wanted to change the world. Maybe even as adolescents, you know, you sometimes see a picture of the Clintons in their 20s with a placard or whatever, or Obama with a spliff. But by the time they get in there, they're not like, how can we help people? They're, how can we make it look like we're helping people while, you know, while the bank account keeps on horizon? Pelosi denied that she's involved or even has knowledge of her husband's stock trading. There is, of course, no way to confirm or disprove that. Important point. But what is clear is that the vast wealth generated by those stock trades in companies Pelosi greatly affects and about which she clearly has non-public information directly enriches Pelosi herself. So a story like this destroys the idea of the American dream, that if you work hard, if you make the right decisions, then you yourself can become rich and wealthy. No, you can't. Not unless you're involved in this rigged game, this rigged system. If you're poor, it's because you were probably born poor. If you're rich, it's probably because you were born rich, or you've got yourself into a situation by luck. And even those people that do make money that didn't come from anything, that's just a quirk, an anomaly, a blip in the system. Real wealth and real power stays where it always has done, entrenched in these corrupt systems. And if you want that ever to change, then you have to personally oppose it, because these systems are designed above all else to preserve their own perpetuity.